Welcome everybody. So today is a training just for parents. So I know that it's really hard with everybody's schedules right now to get a time kind of to meet and to listen and kind of for me to answer your questions. So today I made a short little training and it's just about kind of the basics of what we're doing this year and kind of a little bit about core vocabulary as well as different cues and supports you can give your students. So let me share my screen here so you guys can see my PowerPoint. Slideshow. Okay. So I'm going to be Ryan Gosling right now. Hey girl. I like how you are modeling language using your student's board or device. So this is one of the biggest things that we're going to be talking about today is modeling, 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 and modeling. And not the like fancy like, hey, strike a pose or, picture modeling, but modeling on your student's core board. So each student has a core board. Maybe it looks like this one. Maybe you have, a little bit larger pictures. Maybe you're using eye gaze. Maybe you're using a communication device. But either way, you should have something you can use. And this is specifically one of the things we're going to talk about today. But we're talking about training and implementation of the device or the board. So here is the core board I was just talking about. And you guys might hear modeling called aided language stimulation, or like I will typically call it, modeling. That's all it is. It's modeling, y'all. So we're going to watch a short video here. These are all free on the Project Core website. This one is specifically about aided language stimulation or modeling. We're not going to watch the whole video. We're just going to watch some of it, and it's going to tell us a little bit about it. If you want to watch the whole thing, all you have to do is click this link when I send you the PowerPoint, and it'll take you right to the video. So I'm going to move myself up here so I'm not in your way. And hit play so you guys can listen.
Welcome to the Project Core Professional Development modules. This module, Aided Language Input, describes how adults in the classroom can demonstrate the use of augmentative and alternative communication symbols to help beginning communicators learn to use symbols to communicate. Project Core is being conducted by the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies, a unit in the Allied Health or AAC system. This teaching strategy of using these communications, teaching students how to use symbols to communicate, starts with all students having access to their own personal communication system. Students may not be using these communication systems yet, but they need to have a system that they know is their very own. Adults in the classroom can access these student communication systems to demonstrate use. This teaching strategy of using an augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC system, to show students how to communicate with symbols is called aided language input. Adults can also create their own communication systems that are the same or very similar to students' personal communication systems. This allows them to always have an AAC system handy to show students the power of using symbols for communication. Some adults carry their own around with them and or tape them down in different areas of the classroom or around the school. Some adults choose to use poster-sized communication displays that allow them to demonstrate use of symbols during group lessons. When designing or choosing a format for a classroom-sized communication display, you want it to be as consistent as possible with your students' personal communication systems. As you are demonstrating use of symbols during group lessons, you want your students to have access to the same symbols and ideally in the same locations as they appear on their personal systems to maximize learning opportunities. To them, they start to learn that language input involves adults using symbols during meaningful interactions. As students see adults using symbols during interactions that are motivating and interesting to them, they start to learn the meaning of symbols and how to use the symbols to communicate with others. Adults do not have to limit the words they use to the words that appear on the communication display. They can say anything they want, but should try to think about the students when choosing symbols they do use. Demonstrate symbols and symbol combinations that show students the power of the words they have available to them. Consider what they could say and what they would likely want to say. Let's consider an example. There is a school dance coming up. As soon as the teacher mentioned it, this girl moved her arm and vocalized, making lots of noise. The teacher saw and heard the girl. As she walked over, the teacher said, "I hear you. I see you waving your arms." Then she sat down, pointed to go, and said, "Are you ready to go to the dance?" The teacher then stopped talking but held the point on go until the student looked. With her other hand, the teacher grabbed a stack of photos from last year's dance. They looked at the photos together as the teacher said things like, "She is a good dancer," while holding her point on the word good and pausing to give the student time to look and respond by pointing to a symbol, moving, or vocalizing. When the student did nothing, the teacher kept going. She found a picture of fancy dresses and said, "I will not wear a fancy dress." Once again, the teacher held her point on not. After a few seconds, the student vocalized and made a face. The teacher interpreted this to mean that the student did not want a fancy dress either. The adult pointed to not again and said, "I hear you. You will not wear a fancy dress either." The adult also added the comment, "We are the same," while holding her point on the word same. The student then reached over and took the picture of a girl dressed in a ball gown. The adult said, "Oh, maybe you do want a fancy dress," as she pointed to want. Here's another example. It was field day at school. This student walked over to the bleachers. An adult followed him. She used her typically developing children hear people say thousands and thousands of words before we expect them to say even a single word. Students who are learning to communicate with symbols need the same opportunities to learn. We must let them see us use symbols for real purposes, thousands and thousands of times before we can expect them to use them. Aided language input is a way for us to begin providing the thousands of examples that students need. Pause for activity 1, taking a student's hand and helping her touch a symbol. You also should continue to accept all of the ways that the students communicate. You may be wondering who should provide aided language input. We believe everyone should. That means all of the adults at school should provide aided language input as they communicate with students who are learning to use symbols. Encourage everyone who interacts with the students how to use symbols by providing aided language input as often as possible. Using symbols in meaningful contexts builds students' understanding of the concepts the symbols represent and how to use them. The universal core vocabulary words are extremely flexible and can be used to talk about countless topics during academic and daily routines and social conversations. Because the universal core vocabulary applies across all of these in different communication contexts, helps students see the many ways words may be used. In this example, a paraprofessional demonstrated the use of the word want across a variety of activities for multiple days. One afternoon, her student began to touch want to get bites of freshly baked brownies. While the student's chocolate-covered hand clearly touched all over the page of her flipbook, you can see that want was touched more often than any other symbols on the page. After lots of aided language input, this student was beginning to understand the power of symbol use.
So I'm gonna stop sharing the video for now. If you guys want to watch more of it, like I said, the link is in the PowerPoint. All you have to do is simply click the link that's here at the bottom. Click that link and it will take you right to that page. There are 12 free modules. They all go over different things associated with core vocabulary or using AAC. And I think they're super, super helpful. Some are more for academics, but a lot of them are things that you as parents can do at home. Fast facts here. So children learn language through modeling, which you just watched a video about. Even for babies who don't yet understand what we're saying, we still talk to them, right? We don't bombard them with a bunch of language. We're not having full conversations when they're learning language. We don't even expect them to respond to us. So why, when we're giving a student a brand new language, we're giving them a brand new language and they're learning from the beginning, from the start, from scratch, do we expect them to automatically start touching these pictures or start saying words or start using this device immediately? This is a new language and they're learning a new language. So be patient with them. Like you heard them say, they need thousands of models. So use it as often as you can. I carry one around on my lanyard so that I can model in the hallways everywhere I go. There is one on every student's desk in the classroom. The teacher has one in the front. I have them hidden all over my room. They're everywhere so that any time that I can add a model in, I do. So that they're getting that exposure that they need. It's not going to happen overnight, and we need to be consistent about it. That's really important. So aided language stimulation involves communication partners, so that would be you and the person you're communicating with, using visual language themselves by communicating to the child and others using the communication board. So you're pairing what you're saying, so spoken language, with the AAC. Okay, we're going to go to the store now. And like she said in the video, make sure you're holding your finger on there as long as it takes. Hold it on there to make sure the student's looking. If that student does not look at the symbol, it's not a model because they're not getting that input. Because like you can see in this picture, spoken language is the input, so what they're getting in, and spoken language is their output, what they're saying. We're all good. But when they're hearing spoken language, that's the input they're getting, and they're using aided language as their output, they can kind of get confused. So when you have aided and spoken language for your input and aided and spoken language for your output, you're good. You want to make sure that they're the same, that they're getting the appropriate model. The benefits of aided language stimulation. The use of symbols to say real things in real situations. You shouldn't have to force it. Core vocabulary is very flexible, so it should be something that you can work into what you're already doing every day. If you look at my YouTube channel, you'll see getting dressed, doing the dishes, going to bed. You'll see, making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I tried to provide videos that show you guys those daily routines your kids are already doing. Core can be added into it so easily. And like I said, initially you're not even really expecting them to answer. You just want to make sure they have access to it at all times and that you're giving a model as often as humanly possible. Teaching students what to say when. So when they're leaving, you're teaching them to say, okay, I'm going to the store. Or when they get up in the morning, you could say, I go eat, or I want cereal. You're teaching them what words to use in what situations. Teaching them the makeup and order of a sentence, some grammar, how to use the board appropriately, and mistakes and repair strategies. So if something's going wrong, you're looking for a word to see if it's on there. I want to talk about, oops, we've got an announcement here. So, oops. Okay, and we're back. So, mistakes, they're important. And when you have a mistake, you can teach them. So, for example, if you're looking for a word, it's okay to say, I want to say that we're going to eat something. I don't see eat on here. It's not on our board, but I could say what I want to eat. Where's, let's look. Here's I, and now we need to find want. So as you're narrating what you're doing, you're teaching them strategies that when they don't have a word that they want, that you can think outside the box, how to visually scan to look for that word. That it's okay to take some time. Or if you make a mistake, maybe you touch go, but you didn't really mean go. Maybe you meant like. You're like, oh, not go. I like. I did not hit the right icon. And it's okay. It's okay for you to make mistakes. They're going to make mistakes too. But when you're talking about what you're doing as you're doing it and showing them how to fix it if they make a mistake, that's teaching them a super important skill when they're learning a new language. How to use ALS. Let me move this over just a little bit. So you want to model 1 to 2 words beyond what your child's already saying. So if they're using a 2-word combination on their device or their board, if they say, I want the ball, then you might model a 3 or 4-word conversation. I want red ball, or it go up here. Just a little bit above where they're at. So you're basically expanding what they're already saying so that they can kind of figure out their next steps. Model target vocabulary and grammatical structures. So if the kid says, go, it, you can model, it goes in. So you're adding that one more, but you're also teaching them that go it isn't really something you would normally say. That's the wrong order. So you're teaching them how to fix it without calling it out. Not, no, that's not how you say it. Because they still communicated, and that's awesome. And we want them to continue to communicate. We don't want to say, no, you said it wrong. We want to say, if they say go it, yes, it goes in. And be positive, because all you're doing is providing, again, a model. You don't have to negatively say, nope, not it. Just simply rephrase what they said. Model at a rate slow enough for the child. They're processing, they're looking at it. So if you touch go, you want to hold till they look. But if you're saying it go in, could you follow what I just did? No. Or if someone's talking really fast to you, it's really hard sometimes to figure out what they're trying to say. Really hard to keep up. And honestly, I don't want to listen to someone that's talking like that. I want to listen to someone who has kind of a calming tone. So, it Wait for them to look. Goes in. Just giving that pause and giving a slow rate of speech when you're using it and moving slowly is really important because they need to see it for it to be a model. And if you're going too fast, not only are they not going to see it, but it's going to be too much for them to process. Pair it with speech as you need to fill in the gaps, because guess what? You're not going to have every word on here, but that doesn't mean you can't say it. It goes in the drawer. It goes in the drawer. It's okay to add the drawer in there. She got a red one. It's okay to add that in. It's okay to pair that speech with it. You don't have to only use the words that are on here. You can still use the speech you would normally use. Because otherwise you might sound a little funny sometimes. And you're going to stress yourself out trying to figure out how to say each thing every time. And then your kid's going to look at you like, what's wrong with you? You know, because it's not normal. And you do want it to be as natural as you can. So don't worry if you make a mistake, like we talked about. Model to your child what to do when those things go wrong. And think out loud. Talk about what you're doing in order to locate those icons or messages that you want. Let's see. I want Billy to ask for a drink. So first, I need to find the word want. And then it. So you're talking through what you're doing, and not only is it helping them, but it's also helping you because it gives you more time to find the symbols that you're looking for. Or if you think the symbol's on here and you say, oh, it's big, and then you realize it's not on there. It's okay to be like, whoops, that one's not on here. Silly me. And it's okay to show that you make mistakes too. So then you could say, how could we say that differently? Oh, we said that one was small, so this one looks different because it's not small, it's big. And you're just problem solving, just like you would if like you're trying to think of a word and you can't. How do I say that? It's the same thing with AAC. AAC strategies, and I do have a link here that you can look at all these strategies online. Expected delay, providing an extra pause time of 10 to 15 seconds to increase opportunities for communication. Use your facial expressions, maybe a raised eyebrow, looking at the child and sitting back. Let them know you're waiting for them to take a turn. Silence can be awkward, but it's super important because a lot of times those kids are still processing what you just said to them. Because a lot of times we want to provide that help right away, and it teaches a learned helplessness, and then the child's always going to depend on your help when really they could probably do it themselves, and of course we want them to if they can. Asking an open-ended question. We get into such a habit of yes and no because we think yes and no. It's the easiest way to ask. But guess what? It's not. Yes and no takes pretty complex understanding to be able to answer. Not only do they have to understand what yes and no means and the symbols associated with them, but they have to understand specifically, is this a cat? Yes or no? They have to be able to understand the different characteristics of what would make that picture a cat to be able to even answer the question. So you're actually making it harder for them sometimes. And when you're like, oh, they didn't answer me, maybe they don't know the answer, or maybe that was too hard for them. So try to think of how you can reword it and ask an open-ended question so that they can answer using their core board or the symbols you have. So when appropriate, encourage more complex language and more rewarding interactions. So, for example, instead of asking, did Lily go to the store? Yes or no. You can ask, where did Lily go? Where did she go? In. She went in the store. Or what did Lily do? Go. She went to the store. And it's okay to say went instead of go. That's teaching grammar and still pairing it with our symbol. Increase responsivity. Accepting any attempts the child makes to communicate and expanding their utterance by providing appropriate and consistent responses. For example, if the child says, I go, immediately and positively react and say, yes, we are going to go to lunch. Because I'm going to be much more excited if I say something like maybe when you make a joke and nobody laughs, you're like, cool, all right, don't need to be making jokes anymore. Whereas if you make a joke and everyone laughs immediately, it's like, oh, you're so funny. You're going to tell more jokes because you were positively reinforced to do it. It will encourage you to tell more jokes. So consider that if someone tells a joke. Maybe don't always positively reinforce it if that is not their area of strength. But for your students, if they're communicating with you in any way, it should be very, very positively reinforced, and it needs to be immediate. Because a lot of times they're seeking that attention or they're seeking something, and if you don't respond, they're like, well, that didn't work, so I'm not going to use that. Whereas if you're like, you hear them say, go, go, oh, you're right, yes, we're going to go to lunch. You're reinforcing it, and they're like, wow, they're smiling at me. They're happy with what I did, and they're going to be more likely to try that again later. Expansions and extensions. If a child says one or two words, revise or expand what they said. So if they said go, it could be it go, or she goes, or go more. So you're adding on that one extra thing. Contrastive examples, teaching through the power of clear examples, both positive and negative. So opposites. Go, stop, go, stop. Same, different. All, some. Open, close. Those are all super opposite things. So when you're teaching it, sometimes that helps the student because they're not super similar. They don't have to think as hard. They're like, no way. Of course a desk doesn't go, but a car does. And that's something that's really important to consider when you're teaching something. Aided language stimulation. This is just an example. Whoops. Well, that's a video, but does it look like it's going to play for us? So give me just a second. And I will share. And I will look the video up so that you guys can see it. YouTube. Uh-oh. My computer's being slow and it looks like I am trying to freeze. Not a good sign. There we go. Oops, might help if I spell it right. So this is a super short example, but I like what she is doing. There it is.
Tron. The dog? Dog? Okay.
Go. You want it to go in? Show me. In, okay. Turn it. There you go.
So I like that video because it shows not only something she's doing right, but something she is not doing right. So she is modeling, she is giving him a wait time. However, did you hear her say, show me, show me? We get into this habit of saying that, and that's requiring communication. She's requiring him to talk to me. And here's what I'm going to tell you. One of the AAC specialists I really like, her name is Rachel Madel, and she always says, inspire, do not require. So it is your job to give them models and to make it exciting. That's what we do as a speech therapist, as a teacher, as a parent. We have to provide them something that's communication worthy. If they're not interested, they're not going to communicate. And you can say, show me all day, but you're not really helping them because you're requiring them to say something that you want them to say. It is not what they want to say. And we're here to give them a voice, but we want it to be their voice, not ours. So instead, I love how she's like, rah, 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 and having him eat it, and you hear him laughing. That's animation, and that is super, super fun for kids. They love that. But instead of saying, show me, she said, oh, here we go. Let's put it in. And then let him put it in. She should not have said, show me. You can always say, where should it go? Should it go in? And then you can tell me and move back. That's different. That's asking them to use their voice. You're not forcing them to touch a certain icon. She didn't really give him any cues, but she was fun, she was positive, the symbols are big enough. Those are all the kind of things that we're looking for. Okay. Oh, now it wants to play that video. I see. And now here are resources. There's a bunch of them. So there's the handout that goes along with what I was using here. The AAC chicks are awesome and always have really cool stuff to look at. Emily Diaz is really great and she has a lot of free resources. Gail Van Tatenhove is an AAC specialist with lots of really great stuff. And Actual Talk also has really great resources, and I put links to all of them there that you can click on. And these are for education, so for you to learn more about AAC. These are not things for your students. However, resources to use with your child, these are for your kids. So there's Tar Heel Reader. These are really like fun, simple books that you can use with your kids at home. And they're really good for early readers. And then there's Tar Heel Shared Reader, which has our symbols at the bottom. So that's kind of fun. And a lot of them are based on core vocabulary. Tar Heel Gameplay is videos that have core. So like one of them is the Frozen song, and it randomly stops and you have to hit go for it to continue to go, and it'll say go when it comes to that. So it's adding an extra modeling aspect to it, and it already does all the going and the stopping for you, so you don't have to do it. Or more, or stop, or look, but it provides those models. And then Boom Cards, you guys each have an account through me. So if you forgot your username, password, anything like that, reach out and I'd be happy to give it to you. VOOCs are books that are made into like almost like a movie. It's like a video, and they're really, really, really fun. And right now they're doing free trials, so it's something you as a parent could get for free. And they're a lot of fun, just something interactive to do at home. And reading is a great time for modeling and using language. There's my YouTube channel, which I know a lot of you guys already subscribe to. And that's where you can find, different books I recommend, different videos, short stories. I post videos each week that go along with core vocabulary. I post parent training, all kinds of stuff for you guys to use at home. And then ABC Yeah is a website that has a lot of really fun games that you can do on the computer. So just some fun, different resources for you guys. If you couldn't make it to our Parent Power Hour, that's all this was a recording of the Power Hour so that you guys can kind of get the same information that I would have been giving. And if you have any questions, as always, reach out to me. But thanks for watching, guys.